How do you assess India and Bhutan's relationship?
Well, I wouldn't call it a relationship. It is a friendship. We have cordial relations with China. You know that we have ongoing discussions on demarcating our border.
You think India has nothing to worry about?
India has had nothing to worry about, and India will have nothing to worry about. A policy that's pro-India is ultimately pro-Bhutan.
When you hear leaders of countries who are some of the largest emitters in the world saying climate change is a hoax, we don't believe in it, what goes on in your head?
Capitalism does not have to be mindless. It can be mindful. Just because a larger, more powerful country will not do their part to fight climate change does not mean that we have to shirk our responsibilities no matter how small we are. I apologize if I implied that we have succeeded. This is work in progress.
So while Bhutan has been doing it over the years, do you think it has paid any cost for it?
We are the victims of our own success in the implementation of gross national happiness.
Let's talk about Bhutan. It's often described as a country wedged between two Asian superpowers, India and China. But that does not mean that you can underestimate Bhutan. The country has long lived on its own terms. It's the birthplace of gross national happiness and the only country in the world to become carbon negative. When it comes to South Asia, Bhutan is reshaping the region in ways that we don't read about in daily headlines. But let me tell you, it is doing it calmly, slowly, and consistently, just like most things in Bhutan. So to discuss Bhutan, South Asia, and the world, I have with me the Prime Minister of Bhutan, Tshering Tobgay. Thank you so much for joining us on Hindustan Times. It's been a pleasure, and thank you so much for welcoming me to this beautiful country of yours.
Thank you for visiting Bhutan.
All right, let me start with South Asia, Prime Minister. Prime Minister, South Asia has developed and evolved a lot in the last 10 years. But in the recent past, India is feeling isolated. When it comes to Pakistan, it has just ended a military confrontation. Nepal, Sri Lanka and Afghanistan are continuing to grow into China's orbit. And when it comes to Bangladesh, it's a little difficult to assess given there's a political vacuum in the country. So as a friend, I want to ask you, how do you assess India and Bhutan's relationship?
Well, I wouldn't call it a relationship. It is a friendship. A friendship that has been nurtured over the last 75 odd years. A friendship that is celebrated, that is anchored in the friendship between the highest leadership of India and their majesties, the successive monarchs of Bhutan. So our friendship has only grown with every successive government in India and through the many years leading up to His Majesty the King Jimmy Kesa Namgyalwangchuk's reign in Bhutan.
Right. Also, it's becoming very difficult to talk about South Asia without mentioning China, given its influence in the region. How do you assess the pressure or the relationship with China when it comes to Bhutan?
Well, Bhutan, we have cordial relations with China. You know that we have ongoing discussions on demarcating our border. Other than that, we really don't have, our relations are mainly with India. More than 80% of our trade is with India. We are currently implementing our 13th five-year development plan.
Yes.
Most of it is financed with India's generosity. We have an economic stimulus plan that is being implemented to stimulate the economy after the effects of COVID. And this is also financed totally by the government of India. So whether it is in the area of government-to-government relations, development relations, implementation of our development plans, growth of our economy, and in tourism, most of our tourists are from India. In terms of hydropower and energy, our principal partner is the government of India and now increasingly private sector in India. So in all these areas, most of our relationship, our friendship is really defined. Our relationship is defined by our friendship with India.
All right. Since you say that, when we see a meeting between Bhutanese foreign minister with his counterpart in Beijing in October of 2023, do you think India has nothing to worry about?
India has had nothing to worry about, and India will have nothing to worry about as far as our relations and our friendship with India are concerned.
All right. There is a lot of talk about gross national happiness when it comes to Bhutan. And the more I talk to people here, I'm coming to know that the Western media talks a lot more about it than the people here because it's a way of life here. So when it comes to diplomacy and foreign policy, do you think the roots and the pillars of gross national happiness also flows into diplomacy?
Indirectly, yes. Indirectly. So gross national happiness celebrates access to free healthcare and education. And this is something we are very particular about in Bhutan, and so indirectly this affects our foreign diplomacy also. Similarly, our culture, but more importantly, our conservation credentials. The world knows about Bhutan as a carbon negative country, as a biodiversity hotspot, and many countries take inspiration from our story. So while we do not lecture the world, we can't lecture the world, our actions at home, the implementation of gross national happiness seems to inspire a few countries and a few societies. Similarly with good governance, which is very important for gross national happiness. So good governance is, we are the birthplace of a unique democracy, one that was not born out of civil strife and revolution and people who are really upset with the status quo, rather one that was gifted by loving monarchs on a people who really didn't want democracy. So that also, in some ways, stands to inspire, at least through storytelling, to other countries. And in that way is some form of indirect influence on our diplomatic outreach. But by far the biggest influence through gross national happiness has to be the birth of the Gelephu Mindfulness City. This is a royal vision of His Majesty the King, and the Gelephu Mindfulness City basically showcases to the world that capitalism does not have to be mindless. It can be mindful, and it can be rooted that human habitation does not have to be driven by just economic growth alone, but rather by human well-being and wellness and welfare, and with sustainability and mindfulness and spirituality and all the ideals of gross national happiness.
Right. I hear you, Prime Minister, but I have to ask you this. So when you come from this idea of living and sustainable development as something Bhutan keeps talking about, and then you hear leaders of countries who are some of the largest emitters in the world saying climate change is a hoax, we don't believe in it, what goes on in your head?
Double down on our own efforts. Just because a larger, more powerful country will not do their part to fight climate change does not mean that we have to shirk our responsibilities no matter how small we are.
All right. Also, Prime Minister, given that there's so much happening in the world geopolitically, it's becoming increasingly difficult to choose a side, sometimes not choose a side. And Bhutan has maintained that its foreign policy is going to be neutral. As you mentioned yourself, you have cordial relationship with China as well as with India. And do you think that given the political climate across the globe, it's becoming increasingly difficult to make foreign policy neutral?
So a country's character must be based on your own values, your own ideals, and must emanate from your traditions, your history. If you have your values and ideals, your country's growth will go in a way will grow. Your country will grow in a way that's more sustainable and understandable and relatable to the people, more predictable. In terms of foreign policy also, one's foreign policy must be guided by one's own values and ideals, not necessarily reacting to events outside one's country. Bhutan's foreign policy can be described as neutral. But the fact of the matter is, while it is neutral, it is heavily pro-India. It is pro-India because basically a policy that's pro-India is ultimately pro-Bhutan, since our interests align.
In your past interviews, you have said that India needs to rise to become the leader of South Asia. Why do you say that?
India has the potential to rise to become a global leader, not just South Asia. And it is well on its path to doing so.
All right. Just coming back to gross national happiness, sir. There are, as I said, there's a lot of talk, but do you think there is something about gross national happiness that the Western media or the outside world rather misunderstands about it?
It's the gross national happiness is not for the Western media or the outside world. It is for Bhutan.
But don't you think it's a model that should go beyond Bhutan?
Well, that's for the rest of the world to look at. Our responsibility and our primary purpose, obsession, if you will, is to ensure that the ideals of gross national happiness are implemented here faithfully. Because ultimately it's designed for us. If other countries are interested in learning about gross national happiness, we can have conversations. As indeed, I hope many of us are interested in learning about different development philosophies and growth stories from across the world.
But since you're the expert, India is about 86 percentiles of Bhutan. Do you think a model like this can work in India?
India is home to profound philosophies of development and growth and economics and science and technology.
Yeah.
You have your own philosophies. But like I said, if we wish to discuss, I think exploring each other's expertise, exploring each other's philosophies, talking about it, and listening to one another in order to serve one's own societies and peoples, and by extension, the people of the world. I think that's a good idea.
All right. You earlier said that Bhutan is not someone who's going to lecture the world. But if there is one lesson you would want to teach as a representative of Bhutan to the world, what would that be?
Take care of your own people. Serve your own people. Serve your people. I think most leaders aspire to do so, right?
Yeah, that's the hope, sir. All right.
And basically, if you serve your people, you end up serving the world. Because no people can exist in isolation. So in climate change, for instance, if you serve your people by cutting emissions because pollution is bad for your people, you will serve the world. Economic growth. If you serve your people by bringing higher levels of prosperity, you've got to engage with the rest of the world to buy and sell, and that should benefit the rest of the world.
So while Bhutan has been doing it over the years, do you think it has paid any cost for it?
Oh, no, I have not implied that we are sorry, I apologize if I implied that we have succeeded. This is work in progress. Have we paid a price for it? In a very unusual, unexpected way, yes. And the danger is we will pay a very heavy price. It's because of gross national happiness that our people in one generation are suddenly so healthy. We have doubled our life expectancy to now more than 72 years. Our children, a generation ago, the literacy rate of our youth was 16% because we didn't have enough schools. Today, literacy rate among our youth is 99%. Every child basically goes to school. And this is possible because of free healthcare, free education. And the quality is not bad, both in healthcare and education. In education, while the quality is not bad, the medium of instruction is in English, a global language. So what this means is our youth suddenly can go anywhere in the world and work. And they are doing so. And they are getting paid much more than we can ever earn back home. And so in some ways, we are the victims of our own success in the implementation of gross national happiness. And so now we are trying to develop our economy with a sense of urgency. An economy that has grown manifold over the last generation now suddenly needs to grow much more rapidly while also staying true to our ideals of sustainability and equality.
Must be difficult balancing the two.
Well, in the past we've managed, and we don't have a choice. We have to manage going forward, and we will. And one of the primary reasons is His Majesty the King's royal vision of the Gelephu mindfulness city. So, at the moment, we could feel like we are the victims of our own success. But rather than seeing ourselves as victims, we've got to see opportunities. We've got to see that our limited population, while it is small, barely 750,000 people, are certainly well-educated and healthy individuals and can contribute to unprecedented economic growth. And when we do so, then our youth will not have to move abroad.
Yes.
And that turns into a success story.
I hope every single country sees their vision as work in progress, as you mentioned. Prime Minister, thank you so much for sitting down with me. And again, thank you for welcoming me to the land of Thunder Dragon. It's been beautiful, and thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed our discussions. Thank you.
Same wise. Thank you.